Good afternoon and welcome to this week's weekly wrap. So we'll start with the RBA and we'll just have a look at the Australian dollar and the ASX. So the Aussie dollar had a decent week really until yesterday. We saw the cash rate increase to 3.35% as expected, but the message from the RBA was not exactly super dovish, and it did support the Aussie until basically late yesterday, when the week really just became a little bit wishy-washy. So at the moment they are still worried about inflation, and but the overlying factor really continues to be the dollar and its strength, and we can just see that here, that the Aussie was doing really well until this week, until the dollar made a bit of a fight back and we saw a really sharp pullback. And this has also been the case for the euro. It's been a flat week. We had a bit of a peak, and then we've just seen this fade, and we're seeing some selling today, and we are wondering if we are going to see some continuations lower, but we'll get to that in a moment. So the UK, they do have some news coming out tonight, but the comment from the Bank of England was that they do expect inflation to decrease this year. We have seen a pretty strong pound so far, but that familiar fade that we saw this week. It'd be interesting to see the GDP figure tonight. That's going to be released at 6 p.m. today, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. They're expecting minus 0.3 after 0.1% on the last data. So the other real messages that we had this week was mainly from the Fed, and that was after the Fed Chair Powell spoke earlier in the week, and this had an interesting effect as it sort of gave us some information, but it didn't really answer all our questions at the same time, if that sort of makes sense. So they said that inflation was starting to, inflation was basically the word that was used, and that's was starting to come into play. But they also said we're going to continue to see interest rate rises, and I think around the 0.25%. But this all got a little bit confusing basically yesterday, as we saw, as the market made some pretty decent sell-offs yesterday, and there is said to be still a fair bit of confusion about the message from the Fed and exactly what it means. We did see some comments from Fed member Williams this week. He's always been pretty hawkish, and his tone continued to stay pretty hawkish, but it didn't really differ a lot from what Powell was saying, but he's always kept that same sort of tone through what I've been reading from him, and it was slightly on a different track in some ways. So I think the market just still remains quite confused. So on one hand, we are hearing that inflation is starting to decrease, but we are going to have interest rate rises, and this is sort of helping the US dollar at the moment. We are seeing the index 0.16% higher today. It's had a pretty choppy week so far after last week's strong rallies, and we did see a really strong fight back here, and we are seeing some buying today. So if this is going to be a new push higher, we'd really want to see if the dollar can break above this area here, and then obviously break above this high, just to show that this is a new trend that's starting to form. And it's quite similar on the dollar CAD as well. We have Canadian data coming out tonight, but it's still pressing at this resistance area at the moment today. We need to see a break at this level and then a break at this level to really start to show that buyers are starting to get back in control, because as we can see right here, it still remains pretty range bound. Now, we had some disappointing earnings that also led to some falls last night. So we all remember the week the Nasdaq had just recently, but we've seen a bit of a pullback so far this week, and hopefully we're going to see this area here hold as support. If it does get tested, it may not get tested, and we'll see. But we've had a couple of days of declines now on US indexes. We can see on the US 30 as well here. So the US 30 continues to trade range bound. We've got support down to 33,600, and we've got this resistance up here at 34,257 to really 34,319. And while it stays in this range, we don't really see too many good opportunities at the moment. We would like to see if sellers are able to break this low, if we do see a continued selling on US indexes, or if we do see buying return and would like to see the US 30 break above this area here to really get this trend back on track. At the moment, it doesn't really look like it has a lot of confidence, and there's not too much upward momentum at the moment, and would probably be leaning towards sellers to try and make one more move just to see how much resolve they have at the moment. If that gets rejected, we'll have to go from there. But really at the moment there's not too much going on momentum wise for the US 30 after some lovely moves that we have seen previously. The S&P 500, it's really not following the Nasdaq, but it is sharing a bit of a line with it. With the tech component, it has been doing a fair bit better than the US 30 of recent, as has the Nasdaq. But again, we've just seen this pullback now. We're back on the moving averages, and we'll have to see if we can find some support that comes into the market and if this trend is going to continue. Otherwise, if we do see a break and another push higher and followed by that as a lower high and a new break lower, there could be some pressure developing on this trend here. So now other indexes in Europe, so the German 30 had a really nice push up last night before selling took over in the New York session, and futures affected the German 30 after the cash session was closed. We do have a bit of a consolidation pattern just here, and we'll continue to watch that one there and just see if sellers are able to push lower. If not, if we can have another attempt to move higher. If we do see some moves lower, we'll be looking to see if this area here will come back in as support. And we're just going to have a look at gold. So with the dollar, with the inflation outlook a little bit confusing at the moment, and with gold, with the US dollar going higher, we have seen gold continue to push lower. We did a small video on gold at the moment. It has broken through the support area that we talked about. So we're going to see if the dollar can continue to hold momentum tonight. We'll see there is some comments coming out of one of the Fed members tonight as well. So we'll see if that does have an effect on the dollar and in turn have an effect on gold. It does look like this trend is under a fair bit of pressure now. We have got to break through it with a confirmed lower high. And we'll just see if sellers are able to continue to push this run that they've got going at the moment. Support-wise, if we did see a move back down to here, possibility there. Otherwise, these areas around here, we have a few points of congestion there, so that could become support. But at the moment, we just need to see what the sellers are able to do at this stage. Our yen has had a pretty choppy week. We can see here there hasn't been too much happening. We have seen this range continue on the euro and with the pound to the yen. After that break lower, we've just seen this range continue here. We did look at the dollar yen earlier this week, and we still do like it, but it did run out of puff. We had this nice breakout here. We've got a higher low now, and we've had a bit of a rally here, but again, it really comes down to buyers if they can get back up to this level at 132.60 and break above this point, and that's sort of the key resistance at the moment that we're seeing on the dollar yen. It's an interesting little pattern here. Price is still sort of inside bars, but it is not true inside bars, but it doesn't really look like there's much conviction going on right now. We'll just really need to see if buyers can get back up and break this level. Otherwise, if we do have a bit of support down here in demand, if we do see a break and close below this level, it may be a bit of a worry for this previous rally up. But at the moment, we are seeing price trading outside of this downtrend, and we do have that higher low there, so we'll continue to see if buyers can push higher. And we're going to touch on crypto in a moment, and then we'll have a look at touch on the data that's coming out tonight, and then we will have a look at some of the key news that's coming out next week. So finally, just before we do anything, we'll have a look at oil. So oil has had a pretty decent week this week. We've seen a couple nice rallies during earlier this week. It has gotten a little bit flat at the moment, and it still continues to trade in this range here. With the key resistance up at 81.55 and the key support down around 72.08, and just like it is mid-range at the moment, so I'm not really going to make any calls on it. We're just going to see if we can get a move back up to test resistance or if we get a move back down to test support. But again, oil looks to be just consolidating at the moment and sort of just chewing up a bit of time. So cryptos were doing okay. Bitcoin was holding on to this support point here, but that all changed really yesterday. And if cryptos do sell off like this, it does look like there's a little bit more credit to some of the comments about the uncertainty around interest rates and the Fed policy, and or it could just be a fact that we've had a distribution top set up here, That's a pretty common price action pattern, and then we've had that pattern set up. Buyers have just run out of puff, and we've just seen a break lower that hasn't really been defended. So either or, it's I like both of them, and it does look like a pretty normal reaction in the trend. But what we do want to see is if we do get further moves down, we want to see support and a nice higher low come in with more buying come in to really show that this trend is going to do something. So that is a wide consolidation there. It's touch worrying, but we need to see what buyers are able to do next, and if we do see moves lower. But while we are above that 50% point, which is roughly around this level here at 20.6, we will look to continue to see if the crypto rally can continue for now. And there's a similar story across a few coins. Bitcoin was a bit deeper than Ethereum, but Ethereum's got a similar pattern with that heavy break lower yesterday. BNB, we've had that deep break lower. There's been plenty of buying up around this area, so we'll see if buyers can get back into the market. Some of the ones that were heaviest hit were Solana, for instance, and Avalanche was another that was hit pretty hard yesterday, and we can just see here that real strong bar down. But again, we're hoping to see support come in here around that 50% point, and then see further buying to show that this trend is the real thing and it's going to continue. Now, just onto tonight, so we're going to have, we just mentioned some of this before, at 6 p.m. we have GDP for the UK. We have Canadian employment data tonight, which is the employment change, is looking for 15k, and unemployment at 5.1%. And then we have US prelim UOM consumer sentiment, and they're looking for 65 on that index. So that'll be the end of this week. Now, also, sorry, we do have at 4:30 a.m. we have Fed member Wallace speaking, and the prelim, the consumer sentiment is going to come out at 2 a.m. and 12:30, which is your standard 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have the employment data, for Canada. Now, next week we're just going to have a look at some of the keys to have a look at next week. Some of the keys, just having a look. So we have the climate count change on Tuesday. The US CPI really looks like the high point next week, so that'll be on Wednesday at 12:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. It's US CPI, core CPI, and the year-on-year CPI, which is expected at 6.2%. And we also have at 6 p.m. that day we have UK CPI, and we don't have expected data for that yet, but the last data was 10.5%. And further on the week we have US retail sales and the Empire State Manufacturing Index at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Thursday. Australian unemployment, and we have the US core PPI and PPI on Friday at 12:30 a.m. So there'll be a few things to look out for next week, and under the circumstances of how things are, the CPI data of course will be very important, and the UK CPI data as well will be an important one, because they are really struggling as well with the inflation issue over there. So if what Governor Bailey is saying is correct, will we see some a decrease this early? Maybe not, but it's definitely something to keep a bit of a watch on as we progress this year. So that's it for today's update. Thank you very much for your time. And if you've got any comments or anything you wanted to let us know about the analysis, please feel free to do so. And that's it for now. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Wish you all the best with your trading, and thanks again, and bye for now.